Can I share something that's going to scare you way more than going into the asbestos abatement code? So this started about 4 or 5 years ago. So I've done workers' comp forever. That's it. Just did it, you know. And so our daughter came to us and said, we need to start doing other lines of coverage, right? So I'm like this. I give her the old air quote. It's called WorkCompSoulutions, right? Get it? You know?
Right.
She goes, oh, I can fix that quick. If you go to my website, it says WCS, right? So it's that. And so I go, so reach out to our clients, right? And just see if they have any interest, and then let's see if there's some traction. So she reached out to a bunch of clients, and they said, well, if you do other lines of coverage like you do workers' comp, because we look more like a forensic accounting firm than we do the insurance business.
You could be like Flo. You can bundle.
I could bundle. Yeah. That's kind of, Well, my mom thinks I'm a bookkeeper because I'm too embarrassed to tell her I'm in the insurance business, right? So anyway, so we get a big response back. If you can do it as well as you do workers' comp, but when you do one, it's like being an attorney. When you do one thing all the time, you get really, really good at it. Right? You've seen the majority of stuff. So she said they're interested. And I go, yeah, but we're not that good. Do I have a license? Yeah, I used to sell everything a long time ago, right? I was that guy. You know, whatever, you need pet insurance, I can do it. You know, whatever. I bail bonds, I got a bunch of clients that need that. Right? So anyway, so I happen to know of this young guy. His name is Drew Boyd. He's up in Gainesville. He's not an insurance agent. He's a policy analyst. So here's what we did. So clients, I said, you send me your policies. I mean, the whole 90 pages of your general liability policy, your umbrella policy, your auto policy, all of this stuff. I send it up to Drew and I go, I need you to look for gaps and exclusions. And this is this is the first one we did, AC and plumbing contractor in Tampa. So I'm expecting whatever, who knows. He comes back with, not only did he give me the examples, he gave what's excluded and where there's gaps in coverage and examples. Now, I do a lot of speaking engagements with these contractors because I do them for CE credits. And I make this statement, the world has changed around you, my friends, and you haven't even noticed it. And here's what I'm saying. Insurance companies are taking away coverages. When you get a renewal, it could be with the same carrier, they're excluding stuff. Insurance agents are not reading policies.
I agree.
They're under a lot of pressure. Let's sell this. Or they want to be the cheapest, right? Well, here's how you get to be the cheapest.
Dude, we tell that same story for years now. We always say, I was telling it when I go to mediation with citizens, there's one guy who always wants to tell my client how much coverage they have. And I go, and Mr. Smith, you have $520,000 worth of coverage. I said, yeah, but they can't get to it. Unless if the house burns to the ground, maybe under valued policy law, maybe they pay you that coverage A amount. Odds are they still won't do that. I said, so don't tell them the coverage amount because there's limitations and exclusions. We tell our listeners, look, don't look at the front page. Say to your agent, what does it now not cover? What's been excluded? Or worse, what's been now covered but limited?
Great advice, but let me tell you this. They don't know. They're not looking at it. And I got to tell you, and the contractors, when they get the proposal, they go to the last page and say, what does this compare to last year? And a lot of them aren't even putting it out to market. Here's the example. AC, Brian is the client. We've done workers' comp forever, right? He said, Duke, look at it. He's with one of the largest agencies in the country. Big. And the guy's a buddy of his. So we do the whole review. I sit down with Brian. I go, Brian, the good news is you do residential work? He goes, yeah, absolutely. I go, you're covered. I go, you work in condos? He goes, yeah, of course. No coverage. Apartment complexes? No coverage. Mixed-use buildings? No coverage. So in other words, you're on the 6th floor of a condo, right?
Oh, man.
And your guy's putting the new ice maker in, doesn't tighten the water line up. Drip, drip, all the way down. No coverage.
Wait, but that would be more of a general liability coverage?
That's general liability. That's what I'm talking about.
All right.
He never knew he didn't have it. So as business owners, I have this conversation.
Because you look at all of his insurance. You do his work comp. You're like, give me everything.
And now we're doing everything.
Oh, my God.
But we're starting with policy analysis, gaps, and exclusions. And I'm absolutely floored. And look, it's one thing if you were to say to me, yeah, I knew that wasn't covered. I'll self-insure it. But when you don't know, You got a contractor, somebody's getting their ass kicked in the parking lot.
Right.
They're ticked over that stuff because most of these business owners, they spend their life, with their, you got to protect wealth and reputation at almost all cost. And what can damage that? Well, you start having these claims. This is what happens. And carriers are taking it away. Here we got one. We just did it up in New Jersey. Tree trimming company. They came to us. They got referred to us. And their experienced mod, that's a multiplier. So they're paying double the cost of workers' comp. And they're in the assigned risk, and it's costing them another $100,000. So they come to us. Their agent couldn't do anything. That's where they were going to end up. So we ended up getting them out of the assigned risk pool, right? So we saved them the $100,000. And they said, Duke, look at the rest of our stuff. Now we have no faith in our current guy. They did tree trimming and they did excavation. Excavation, there was excluded earth movement. The policy did. I go, did anybody happen to read this? Now, earth movement's not a dozer that's moving earth.
Right.
It's a shovel. You can have a shovel. And they had no idea. They're like, same thing. So I just say this. It's not a bad idea. And that's what we do. Somebody goes, look, you want to quote it? I go, no, you send me everything first. So we do this whole gap analysis, and we also do premium recovery. And so I've been doing that for a long time. If you look at my website, you can see. And that's where we just go in strictly on a contract.
Yeah, well, that's a good opportunity before the break for you to tell us, how do we get a hold of you? Give us your website, email address, phone number. How do we get a hold of you?
So WorkCompSoulutions.fl.com is my website. Quite honestly, if you find me on LinkedIn, just about if you put WorkComp Solutions in, it's going to come up. So
very good.
We have a lot of social media presence, and I post a lot of stuff. So, but the whole premium recovery side is let us look at everything, and if we get you money back, we split it. We divvy it up. And
is that part of the audit? Like you basically,
it's everything.
You audit or like reverse audit type stuff, whatever.
I do. I can go back. See, the money comes from because I can go back 3 years.
Okay.
So if there's stuff you've been misclassified on the liability side,
right,
I can go back. Workers' comp.
Now, it's interesting because I was going to ask you this before. Now, how long do you go back and look? Do you look at 3 years worth of claim filings, and then after that it falls off, or do you have to? Or do you consider more than 3?
Yeah, I do look at claims. I look at experience mods. I look at classifications. There's so many moving parts on the workers' comp side and the reason I can go back 3 years because if they looked at their policies, it says the carrier can go back 3 years if they believe something was misrepresented or the wrong, so they can go back and charge you. So that gives us the right. And
nice.
I mean, I've got enough stuff on my website. This has been a couple of years ago. We got a PEO, leasing company.
Well, let's go ahead and take a break. We'll pick right back up where we left off. WorkCompSolutions.com. We'll be right back. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell.
Perfect.